people also forget individuals count.
Yeah,
the amount of times I see comments on social media or people saying it where they say, oh, industries should change. I can't really do anything, so I'm going to carry on. You are funding these children having to work 100 hours a week. Like, you are paying for that to happen.
Hello and welcome to the Knowness podcast, the Vault of Knowledge. Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the Knowness podcast, the Vault of Knowledge. Today, we'll be talking to Olivia Eaton of OBE Label, the founder and the CEO. We'll be having a discussion on what it's like to run a business at a young age, what it's like within the fashion industry, what OBE Label really is, as well as a discussion on sustainability. So thank you and join us for this week's episode. Hello and welcome to this episode of the Entrepreneurship Series. Today I'm joined by Olivia Eaton of OBE Label. So, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, hello, my name is Olivia Eaton and I'm the founder and CEO of OBE Label.
Perfect. So let's just get a bit more about your background, where you're from, what you're studying. Are you in university?
Yeah, so I'm from Buckinghamshire, which is just north of London.
Yeah.
And I'm a student currently in my third and final year. I'm studying history at the University of Birmingham. And I love history. I'm actually the history subject lead for Knowness. So you guys will see me in another episode in the future.
Yeah,
talking about history. Yeah. I'll be back.
Okay, that's really cool. And as you're saying, you are the founder and CEO of OBE Label.
Yes.
So talk to me. What is OBE Label?
Yeah, so it's an environmentally sustainable and ethical clothing brand, clothing and accessories. And we now also sell digital sewing patterns, which is exciting. So that's a new avenue.
Yeah. So what do you mean by digital sewing patterns? How does that kind of work?
So they're PDFs. I don't know how to explain it fully.
Yeah,
you print them off, stick them together, cut them out, and then those pieces you'll sew together to create the end garment.
Gotcha.
So you can sew from your own home without leaving your home, just printing it at home.
Oh, okay. So it's making it easier to access that kind of stuff. More accessible and more. Okay.
Yeah, and it's actually how I learned to sew from buying them on Etsy.
I see. Okay.
Yeah.
And you're kind of helping to reach more people.
Yeah.
Have that. Gotcha. Yeah.
That's the goal.
And you mentioned this word sustainable, and we hear this word a lot.
Yeah.
Now, especially nowadays, right? Yeah. So when you say sustainable, what do you really mean by that? What is that?
Yeah, it's definitely overused, in my opinion. It's a bit of a buzzword at the moment, and often it's greenwashing. If a brand says they're sustainable, guys, have a look. How are they sustainable? But OBE Label truly is. So it's genuinely at the core of the business. It's why I started the business.
Yeah.
So for example, my sewing machine was my mother's. My scissors were my great-grandfather's. He was a tailor. Okay, yeah, if you see them there, some of them are a bit rusty. You can tell that they're vintage.
Bit wear and tear.
Yeah, probably actually they're like late 1800s.
It's like vintage by now.
Yeah. I've never properly thought about how old they are.
Yeah, vintage equipment.
Definitely, proper vintage, proper secondhand. And yeah, even the thread uses secondhand, the needles are secondhand. I'm really lucky where I live actually, when I'm home, like home, not university home.
Yeah.
There's a fabric charity shop near me, so I can also get secondhand fabric, secondhand thread, needles very easily. Yeah. So I don't need to worry about that. Yeah. I don't need to buy new ones. But we use dead stock fabric as well, for example.
What is dead stock?
So it's end of the mill fabric. So factories, when they finish creating the line of garments, they've got lots of fabric left over. Yeah. And they sell that. So it is secondhand-ish, I guess. But it would otherwise be thrown away.
I know that was like a thing.
Yeah.
I think I heard something similar for like coffee pods, where any like defected ones or...
Yeah.
They sell them for like really cheap.
Fruit and veg as well. Some brands do that. Yeah. So there are also some fabrics, if they're a bit defected, like if they're stained or
Gotcha.
imperfect.
And you can just get it for really cheap instead of them throwing it away, right?
Yeah, so they are usually more affordable.
Yeah.
Because good fabric can be very expensive, which then obviously drives up the price of the end garment. Yeah. But I think sustainable clothing should be as affordable as possible, so more people have access to it. We're just as sustainable as possible. Gotcha. I don't know, fabric scraps are recycled or reused. I love doing patchwork with them. I think the customers like it as well. It always sells really well.
No, it's very cool. Like, it looks cool as well. Yeah.
And everything is posted in biodegradable packaging. Yeah, just every decision we make.
Gotcha.
Completely
That's
sustainable.
the very core. Everything is sustainable.
Yeah,
gotcha.
And I'll never compromise on that.
Yeah, which is it's very admirable.
Thank you.
So let's move on to the core of all of this and the origin of OBE Label.
Okay.
And to start this, let's start with the name itself.
Okay.
OBE Label. I love saying it because it just has a ring to OBE Label. What does it mean?
So it's actually just my initials.
Oh, okay. So it's just your name.
Yeah. Well, actually, I'll answer the other question as well about the start of the business, because I feel like it links in with the name.
Gotcha. We'll get back to it.
So I never wanted a business, and I started sewing in lockdown. I was bored. I said my mum had a machine, so I used that. It's good that I learned in lockdown. I think otherwise I'd have got so frustrated. I'd never have properly learned.
Yeah, with all the time you have to...
It's completely something you learn from failure.
Yeah.
Which, I don't know, I like doing stuff I'm good at.
Yeah.
Just like everyone would. But eventually I got good enough to sell stuff. So I started selling them on Depop.
Yeah.
Because I posted pictures and my friends were like, oh, these are nice, you should sell them. Started to sell them. Then I created an Instagram as a bit of a portfolio or for people to message me. Then I started getting quite a few followers, selling quite a decent amount of stuff, and thought, oh, okay, I should create branding. Yeah. So that's where the name came from. It was just one day I was like, I should probably have a name.
Yeah.
I thought, fashion brands use names, OBE. And then I thought that sounds like the Order of the British Empire, you know, like the award.
Yeah,
so
it does.
I put in label because I thought, clothing label, that will be good.
Now that you say it, does have that ring to it. Yeah.
OBE label. And
there's loads of brands with like names. You got like JP Morgan or Ralph Lauren, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, that's really cool. Yeah.
So there's no special story behind it.
Yeah, no, but it doesn't always have to be. I mean, I feel like, that's a very cool name. Yeah, and like I said, it has that ring to it as well. Nice. But no, it's very interesting. You mentioned like that as the origin. We find that a lot of startups, they are born from someone or a group of people with a specific goal in mind from the get-go. Yeah. Whereas with yours, it's a bit different. It kind of evolved into that over time. Yeah. Which I think is really cool. At what point did you realize in that journey, I wanted to start a startup? I want this to become bigger than it is and start to really focus on it.
Gosh, I really don't know.
I guess it's kind of hard to find that single point.
I think it's when I started earning decent money in the sense that I didn't need a part-time job.
Gotcha.
Like that was my part-time job.
Got you, yeah.
And then I remember thinking, okay, if I'm selling, I don't know, 5 times as much as this per month, I could actually live off this full time.
Yeah.
And then it kind of got my brain thinking, oh, I could hire people.
Yeah, I could start a little business, a little empire.
Yeah.
The OBE empire.
Yeah.
No, that's very cool. Yeah. And I guess the next question I'll move on to now is where things are currently. Talk to me a bit about that.
In terms of what? Sorry.
So in terms of where is your business at the moment? Do you have employees or interns or that kind of thing? Yeah.
So no, right now it's just me.
Oh, it's still just you.
I say founder and CEO. I'm also, I don't know, seamstress, model, photographer,
the social media manager.
Yeah, everything. But I am actually in the process of hiring interns, which is really exciting. Okay. I've got interviews this week. So nice. I'm going to have some from Nottingham Trent. I haven't decided how many. This is one thing I think that you realise when you're a business owner.
Yeah.
So when I first heard, we can have interns, I was like, oh my goodness, amazing. I want as many as I can. Like anyone who applies, I'll give it to them. But you kind of actually realise maybe not, because I have to train them. You know, when someone does a job and it's bad, it takes longer to fix their mistake.
Exactly.
Than to just do it yourself.
Like if it's like a social media intern or worker and make these little mistakes, you then have to go back, correct it. And it just adds to the process. And sometimes I guess it does more harm than good. Yeah.
And then also I'm not that I don't love confrontation, but like the thought of having to say to someone, this is really bad, I'm going to redo it. It's just mortifying.
Yeah. You'd rather avoid that and just have someone who's like very good at it.
Yeah, it just takes a layer of stress away. So, hopefully someone will be good enough. I'm sure they will. The application so far has been amazing.
Okay, hopefully you do find that person or a group of people. But it's really cool to hear you're getting to that stage. Yeah. I guess, there's a lot of people out there who have kind of, I guess, have a slightly similar background in the sense of they have their own shops on Depop or on Instagram, and they make their own kind of products, whether it be food or clothing specifically. Yeah. I see a lot of people who have custom made, for example, Air Forces, that kind of stuff. So for those people, what kind of advice would you have in that initial starting phase?
Ooh.
Because with yours, it's there was a lot of success that came from it. So
thank you.
Yeah, so what kind of tips and tricks would you give?
I think keep at it.
So consistency.
Because Depop and all these selling platforms, they like it when you post consistently. Yeah. That's very specific to the platform you're selling on. Yeah. But I know Etsy, Depop, Vinted, I don't know, sites like this, eBay. If you're more active, you're replying to messages, you're posting quickly, they notice you and they push you up. And so, yeah, luckily, I think I had a few of my clothes go on their homepage or explore page.
Oh, I see.
So then I got quite a few followers from it, and then it's just a snowball effect.
Yeah.
So do stay consistent. Maybe number 2 is don't be put off by some difficult people.
Okay.
Just because, I mean, it's not even in real life, which is lucky. You know, you have a kind of a moment to compose yourself.
Yeah.
But I would just get some crazy messages. Like, my stuff's handmade, obviously. And I think I already sell it quite affordably. Like, for reference, a camisole at the moment is about £25.
Oh, okay, that's pretty decent too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, you know, they're nice. They are nice.
Yeah, I can confirm they're quite nice.
Thank you. And I'd have people messaging me saying, hey, could you do this for £7?
Yeah.
And when I'm like, oh, no, sorry.
Like, it's like a set price. It's hard
it's just a bit of back and forth. And obviously you're representing the brand, plus you just don't want to be rude. So you will get annoying messages. I just want to prepare you for that. And if you're talking about custom shoes, for example, I'm sure you'll get messages.
All sorts of queries.
Just all sorts.
I guess that's what's different in this kind of startup or this kind of area of business. It's very like customer, dependent, customer facing. So you're going to have a lot of, customers of all sorts. There'll be those that are like really easy to deal with, and then there are those that are like just...
Yeah. No, I will say though, I haven't actually had properly difficult people. I've had a few weird messages.
Yeah.
There's always someone, isn't there?
There'll always be.
But in general, I actually get more supportive messages, if anything. Like, I get people messaging me, hey, I love your stuff. Can't afford new clothes right now, but just want you to know, like, I've got my eye on you. Stuff like this. Yeah, which is, nice, it's really uplifting and really nice. Yeah. So I've had more nice than bad.
Yeah.
I'll say that. Yeah.
Again, moving on from that, right? I guess, if I was in your position, receiving those kinds of messages is so uplifting. Yeah. And it really helps you. Well, if it was me, for example, in other similar stuff, it helps me like keep going, Yeah. In any of my past projects as well, receiving that positive feedback, it gives you that motivation to continue to get better, to continue doing what you're doing. Yeah. So the question I have now is, what are your sources of motivation? Because that's something I find really, really key when it comes to startups. What is it that keeps you going?
So I didn't say this earlier, but we do give 10% of profits to charity every month.
Okay, yeah.
That's really important to me.
Yeah.
And sometimes when I just really don't want to do something, or because I'm in my final year of university, I've got my dissertation.
There's a lot going on,
got my modules, it just does get a lot, and I just want to relax. Well, no, don't worry, I do take time to relax though, guys. I'm not work.
Yeah.
Then I just remember that I am actually benefiting people and animals and the environment.
Good that's coming from
it. It's beyond just me.
Yeah.
So definitely that. I think as well, I haven't applied for any grad jobs because I'm planning on doing this full time next year.
Oh, I see. Gotcha. Yeah,
so I kind of don't have a choice. It has to be successful within a few months. But also just being truly passionate. Like, I actually do care, and I really want people to wear my stuff.
Gotcha, yeah.
And I want people to shop at OBE Label rather than H&M, rather than Zara.
Gotcha,
like, the way I see it, people are buying my clothes or my accessories instead of somewhere else. And
even if it's that one person.
Yeah.
Even if it's that one person or like two people, then that's...
Yeah. Everyone is so important, guys. Remember that.
Yeah.
Everything you do as a consumer.
Yeah.
So important.
Yeah, no, that's very noble. No, but I can imagine those are like very like, I guess, powerful sources of motivation. And I can see you can tell so far so good, with everything, the way things are running, it just feels like OBE is just getting bigger and better.
Oh, thank you.
So it's really great to see, and hopefully it lasts that way long term. When you mentioned the 10%, is there a specific charity that goes to, or is it?
No, so it changes every month, just because I don't want to choose just one.
Yeah, you don't just focus and prioritize one.
Yeah. There's so much going on in the world. I will say it is usually animal sanctuaries. But having said that, I do quite a few. And also, we do other charitable stuff. So we donate items to charity auctions, like fashion shows where they auction them off at the end. So we've done one for breast cancer awareness.
Oh, okay.
One, I think, was a mental health charity.
Yeah.
So lots of different things. And I also invite followers, or if anyone wants to message me, OBE.label on Instagram for requests of something, there's a cause close to their heart.
Gotcha.
Then I want to hear about it.
Oh, okay. Okay. And I mean, this is a bit of a difficult question, and maybe you've heard it before as well, but with OBE Label, what sets you guys apart, and what makes you guys different from all the other sustainable... I mean, I don't know any personally, but I'm sure there are other sustainability brands out there that are custom made and that kind of stuff. What makes yours different? Or is there nothing that makes it different? Is it just, how does it... Talk to me about that.
Well, it's good. I did a pitch a few days ago.
Oh, is it
and I had to emphasize this because clothing brands, obviously there's so many that you have to be, you don't have to be different just because also people will always buy clothes.
Yeah, but to stick out, it's important to...
So obviously the sustainability draws us apart from all the high street brands.
Yep.
Well, not all high street brands, but the fast fashion shops, the giants like Primark,
River Island, Zara, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. But firstly, we're affordable. So I follow lots of sustainable brands. I don't know if I should name them. It's kind of naming and shaming.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah.
I don't know. I don't want to say any specifically, but I follow some amazing
we all
ones.
know. We all know. Yeah.
Yeah, or just smaller, like London-based ones, and they have the most beautiful stuff, like handmade, really inspiring. And they're a lot more expensive, which in my opinion, I think it is worth it.
Yeah.
Like they'll be, I don't know, £85 for a camisole, which I still don't think is crazy because people are paying hundreds of pounds, thousands of pounds
brands
for like a Louis Vuitton top, which is made in sweatshops.
Exactly.
Like it's not high quality.
Like a fraction of the price.
Yeah. So I do support that still. The reason ours are so affordable is because they do still have a profit margin. And yeah, I just want more people to wear sustainable clothing because a lot of people do use the excuse, oh, I just can't afford it, it's too expensive, this kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to disprove that.
Yeah, by making it just as accessible as possible.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I guess with your business, it's less so about the profits, like these are big giants, but more so about that sustainability, reaching that wider audience. And I guess, like, continuing and sharing that passion of like fashion and like sustainable fashion.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is really cool, yeah.
That's another thing though, is that a lot of sustainable brands, people say this as well, but I do have to admit it is kind of true, that they just don't have particularly nice stuff, or it's very basic, very
bare bones.
Just not super trendy.
Yeah.
Because they think that their target is just, I don't know, like a hippie who only wears baggy clothing.
Yeah. Very like simplistic clothing.
Yeah, I know that's very
so generalistic, but I get what you're saying. Yeah.
Like it is harder to find. It's a lot easier to just Google cute top and find one that's unethically made from unsustainable materials.
Yeah.
So our stuff actually is cute. I will say that because I started it when I was maybe 16 or 17, the brand.
Oh, okay, I see. Yeah.
And I'm 20 now. So I'm kind of making clothes for my target market, which is me.
Like
my customers are myself.
Would like, and then you meet other people who have like a similar mindset and a similar taste and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Gotcha. So you're not making things that you think would look good. You're making things that you think look good. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
What fits your kind of like vision and stuff like that. Oh, okay. Yeah. And when it comes to a lot of these different like major brands and stuff like that, what they focus on primarily is again this profit margin and making money by often even the smaller ones. What they'll do is, from my experience, from what I've seen, they'll find something that looks good and is made super cheap and they'll sell it at a high price. Whereas yours is very, very different. It's clothing that's made at a relatively low cost, sold at an affordable cost as well, because you still have to maintain some profit margin. And the main thing is it's sustainable, right? So I guess, the next question I have is, with these major brands, I guess it's understandable to an extent why it's not sustainable. I mean, you can't expect all these factories to, like you said, have their grandfather's scissors and that kind of stuff. So my question now is, moving on forwards, again, it's a bit of a difficult question. It might be a bit too early to start having these discussions, but where do you see OBE Label as it expands? What does that image look like in your head? Yeah,
so the next phase will be, so I've got my interns, hopefully this year.
Okay, hopefully.
From Nottingham Trent and then some from the University of Birmingham. Just to help me with brand visibility. Yeah. Because as a small business,
it's hard to get reach.
Yeah. And then not really being able to afford mass marketing. So then when we're selling more, then I'm going to hire freelancers, UK based. So they would just work from home, send me back the items, and then I would sell them.
Gotcha, yeah.
And then after that, then I want a UK based studio and have employees full time working in there. But obviously in ethical conditions.
Yeah, of course.
Because people have said to me, oh, but factories, blah, 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 this kind of thing. Because you can.
Yeah, you can't.
And there are ethical factories. But I really like the thought of having complete control over the quality. And also and not having to import them. Because even if there's the most ethical place in China or something, where lots of clothes are made, you still have to pay to have that then sent back to England for me to then redistribute.
Exactly.
And also sustainability-wise, that's not great. It's better to have it straight
especially
from
sending things on planes and
and
even along that journey, you don't know that every single step of the way is sustainable, ethical. You don't really have that control or that security. At least with what you're doing, you can say with certainty and with the fact it's sustainable.
Yeah, and eventually, and I even want to have like profiles saying X person made this, maybe on the tag of clothing and stuff, to really also personalize the people that are making them, because that's one thing.
So like kind of like the name or like a tag.
And a picture.
I guess like with a lot of artwork, you have like people have like their signature with it. So it kind of be like that.
Yeah, I didn't actually think of that.
Okay. Yeah, that's very cool. It brings like a personal touch to it.
Yeah, because people forget that it's a real person making their clothes. It's not just a machine. There are people making your clothes.
Because in a factory, it's literally one person doing it for you.
Yeah, it's a real human.
You don't really realize that. You just see it as like a like a photo printer. Not a photo, like I forgot what it's called now. Printer. It's printing out sheets of paper. But it's not really like that. It's a person.
No. Yeah.
So I guess you're kind of taking that back from these factories and these big businesses and bringing that personal side of fashion back to consumers in a way. Which is, that's very cool. Yeah. Okay. And I guess, moving on from that as well, this kind of personal side to clothing and fashion. What's your kind of personal experience with clothing and fashion? Were you always like into like clothes and sewing and that kind of stuff, or what was that like that own personal journey like?
Yeah, well, I can remember when I was a kid asking my mum to help me make clothes for my Barbies.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
But we like glued them together. I think I still have one. I kept it because I found it a couple of years ago, and I was like, oh, I forgot about this. Like, I made some weird cape or something.
Yeah.
But I was never I didn't sew when I was growing up or anything like that. I actually started because I found cute things in the charity shop that were too big or too small. So I altered them to fit me.
Gotcha.
But yeah, I do love creativity. I would say I'm quite creative.
Yeah.
So sewing, I don't know, it's one of those things when you start to do it, you realize you love it.
Yeah, just once you get into it, you realize this is actually something I enjoy.
Yeah, and it is fun. Everyone should try. Everyone should start if you have access to a machine.
See if they like it or not.
Yeah.
No, that's really cool. So I guess your project is like such a good combination of different things. It's your own passion, your own interest. You enjoy it as well, which is really, really cool.
Thank you.
And I guess, like going back onto the idea of long term, what are your other like kind of long term goals? And I'm talking like, if we're thinking like, dreaming big, 10 years time, maybe 20 years time.
Yeah.
Where's OBE Label?
So I definitely want to do this full time. That is my dream, to do this as my job.
Yeah.
And I also really want OBE Label to become a mainstream brand.
Yeah.
Maintaining its sustainability
and its ethics and its policies.
Yeah. Everything at the core of it. Just so that people, it's like I mentioned earlier, you just don't know where to go if you want something cute, affordable and sustainable. So I really want OBE Label to be something where they think, oh, okay, let me go there and, guilt-free shop. I don't need to worry. It's children making my clothes.
And it's still good stuff as well. It's not like some plain like...
not plain, fitting badly. So I do want to be a fashion giant.
Yeah, no, 100%. Yeah. And I hope, it reaches that point as well.
Yeah,
where I'm walking down a high street and there's just like an OBE Label store. Yeah. Another question I have, and again, it's a bit of a difficult one, but it's where do you kind of like, when it comes to balancing, how do you balance when it comes to like the cost of your products, balancing maintaining a profit, but also being affordable?
Yeah.
What's that kind of like? Because with a lot of your clothing, you could very easily mark it up like those other brands you mentioned that are smaller, sustainable, but charge £80, £90, £100. What's that kind of like, the balancing that affordability versus profits?
I calculate my prices very much just on materials, time to make.
Yeah.
Like just very basic.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
I know that I could charge more, and I'm often told, oh, you should charge more because people are willing to pay for quality that fits them nicely, handmade in England, all this kind of thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I still manage to make a profit margin. Also because dead stock fabric is often cheaper.
It's obviously already, cheaper.
And so, I've found a way that it works.
Yeah,
but I do,
that's perfect. Yeah.
But also remember that clothing should not be like £3 for a t-shirt.
Yeah.
I think another thing is that we're so used to seeing that. I've been selling, I sold in a market once in real life.
Yeah.
And some girl looked at one of the tops and I heard her whisper to her friend, like, oh my God, £25.
Yeah.
And obviously I didn't say anything because I was eavesdropping really, but I was thinking like, oh, it's really not bad. Like we're just so used to it.
I feel like nowadays when it comes to like factories and people using sweatshops to reduce the cost of labor so much, it's led it. So I'm not going to name any websites, but there's certain websites and apps where you can get shirts and clothing for so cheap. And it's normalizing the idea of clothing being cheaper.
Yeah.
And it, in a way, it's kind of promoting these little factories and stuff like that into continuing this practice. And so people's perception now are that they can just get clothes for cheaper. But and they're forgetting that it actually costs money to make this, to buy the product, to produce it, to hand make it. There's all these costs, which is kind of, I guess, upsetting in a way that's occurring. But again, there's not really much you can do that against that, other than, combat it your own way and continue on this label, right?
I think people also forget that individuals count. The amount of times I see comments on social media or people saying it where they say, oh, industries should change. I can't really do anything, so I'm going to carry on shopping at Primark. Sorry, I'm naming and shaming. You said you're not going to name names. But every single time you spend money, like supply and demand, you are funding these children having to work 100 hours a week. Like, you are paying for that to happen. Yeah, and you're not paying them. You're paying the CEOs who are having weddings that are tens of millions of pounds. While their workers are earning actual pennies an hour under the poverty line. So I think it's just so important to remember that you make a difference when you're spending your money as well.
Exactly, And then when they notice that decline and that kind of stuff, it does make an impact. Even if it's just one person, it makes an impact.
Every single person makes such a difference.
Which is why I feel like that's like such a big benefit of your startup as well, because even if you just take one person away from these brands and you convert them to OBE label, that's still going to make a big difference. Which is really cool. And if you go back to just talking a bit more about your startup journey itself, what's kind of been the biggest difficulty you faced so far? The biggest challenge, the biggest hurdle?
I think scaling up, just because it's me by myself. And I do other things in life. I'm a student.
With university.
I have a social life. Sometimes. This kind of thing. And it's finding a balance, because when I have an influx of orders, like around Christmas time at the moment, I'm doing lots of sewing. I don't have time to then create new designs. I don't have time to create new content. And so then my TikTok gets less views and it just all starts slowing down. So that's why hopefully by having the interns, that's going to help a lot this year. So
to help with that workload.
Help with the workload, exactly. But I think that's a problem, is I guess balance as well comes with that, because I need to make sure I don't overwork. But also the only way to properly propel it is to overwork.
To have that, maintain that level of standard. So
I'd say that's the biggest challenge.
I can imagine, like having that, it's like you said, you're doing your CEO, your social media, you're doing all these other things. It's kind of hard to do all that at once whilst maintaining it at a high level. But how have you kind of balanced that so far? Do you work on like prioritizing your time, or how does that?
One thing I will say I do like about myself, I'm good at organization. Like my Google Calendar is color coded. I plan everything. I plan my days like a week in advance.
Okay, that's good.
So I make sure, I feel like I don't get stressed about what I have to do because I know I've allocated time for it and it will get done. So that is one thing as well, is a great tip, is to just be really organized and you just have no excuses. And I'm quite precious with my time.
Okay, no, that's perfect. And what would you say so far has been, what's kind of been like what's your toughest moment? Like, has there ever been a moment in this journey where you thought, I kind of want to give up. This is getting a bit too much.
Oh, definitely.
Oh, is that?
Yeah.
Is that one time, or is it a few times? Or?
I remember during A levels.
Yeah.
So I was doing A levels. I needed to get into the University of Birmingham. I went to a grammar school, so also academically, I kind of had to do well. There was always that pressure, not necessarily bad pressure. Because like it was good for me, but there was not really an option to do badly. If that makes sense, which I'm grateful for, but also it was stressful. So, and I remember I got really busy. I don't know why, but during A levels, and I got loads of orders. I would increase my prices. I think I increased them by like 20% to try and slow down the orders.
Try and manage it a bit more.
Yeah, and I ended up having to actually close my shop so that I could keep up while also doing my A levels. And honestly, I was really overwhelmed. I didn't really have a social life at that point. I guess no one does during A levels. No one's going out for drinks with their friends in the middle of exams.
With exams in 2 weeks.
But I think that one was a big hump. But also I've gone through phases, I think. I don't know, this is bad to say. It makes me sound like ungrateful.
No, not at all.
I love my business, obviously, because I would just close it if I didn't and it wasn't making me happy. But where like sewing, I started off because I loved it and it was a hobby and I would do it on my free time.
Yeah.
Whereas now I do have to admit it's more, I see it as work.
Yeah.
And so when I have free time, I'm not sewing.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Because it's kind of merged with work and synonymous with that. Gotcha.
Yeah. So I have gone through phases as well where I've just thought, oh my God, like the thought of sewing right now.
Yeah, yeah.
Really?
I mean, you could be doing other things and enjoying your time.
But I feel like anyway, in creative industries, you do go through that.
Yeah,
like you always hear about book writers. They'll go through months or they don't want to write, or painters.
Yeah, they want to stay away from the pen.
Yeah, they have no inspiration for a while. So I also know that it's normal. It's nothing to be worried about.
It's the same creative process in the end.
Yeah,
if you like really boil it down to it, yeah.
And it's the same as everything. Like I think even if you absolutely love something, you'll always have a period of time where you're like, oh, I don't want to do that right now.
That's why I think your thing is really cool, because when it comes, you know, how I mentioned motivation, you're gonna have those ups and downs, but your source of motivation, I guess they can be described as because you have there's two different types of motivation. You have external and internal. External is that pressure to succeed, the pressure to do well, whereas yours is more internal. It's your own, you know, your own joy, your own passion. Even when it comes to the charity work that comes with it as well. It's super, super rewarding. And I'm sure like all of these factors play a role into maintaining that motivation.
I will say it is external as well though.
Yeah, that plays a role as well.
There is a bit of that.
There is some of that as well, yeah. But that's to be expected. But yeah, so just if we shift away briefly from the entrepreneurial side of things.
Yeah.
You study history, right?
Yes.
Is there, I'm just wondering, is there like a link between history and OBE Label, or your love of fashion or sewing? Can you talk to me a bit about that? Yeah,
so history, I actually did it. I think I chose to do it before I even started sewing. I knew I always really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And so I don't really think that the business has much to do with my degree, honestly. But I do know that I love it.
It's something in fashion that's enjoy about,
it's something
as well transferable
like
like skills and that kind of stuff.
Yeah. And so maybe it would have been more useful to do like a business degree or a fashion degree. Yeah. But history, I just really do love it. And I also think it's so important.
Yeah, it is.
It's really important.
But I guess that's what's important, is doing the things you love and you enjoy.
Yeah.
But do you know of any like links between history and fashion, or
so
the history of fashion?
This is true. I did the evolution of a ball gown for my extended project qualification. My EPQ. Okay. So that was good. But I did an essay, actually. We did a feminism module in second year. Yeah. And I looked at fashion in feminism and how it represented changes, like when women started wearing miniskirts.
Gotcha.
Then it was seen as
over time and stuff. It seems a bit more taboo and
exactly. Or power suits and how they represented.
That's very interesting. I guess you could kind of track the history of feminism just by looking at the way it's evolved. Fashion, female fashion over time.
Yeah, it's really interesting.
Yeah, and I remember mentioning earlier as well, I saw this that YouTube short video of it was both men and female fashion over the years, like 1920s, 1930s, and so on and so forth. And it's very interesting seeing how that changes and evolves. Yeah. And who knows, maybe you might play a role in that as well with OBE Label down the line.
Oh yeah.
Well, yeah, we'll see. Which is really cool. But yeah, no, it's interesting seeing like that kind of link between it. And when it comes to this whole idea of like work hard, play hard, right? Yeah. It seems you work very hard on OBE Label, right? What kind of things do you do to kind of relieve yourself from that stress? And when it gets too overwhelming, what are the things you kind of do?
Oh, I was nervous I'd have this question. What do I do? Okay. Yeah. A bit boring, but I do love to read. Even though I do enough reading with history, but I do love reading novels. The only thing is I like to read like thrillers.
I see.
And then, when they're like leading to some plot twist. Yeah. I end up just sitting there and reading and processing.
Yeah, because it's hard to
know what's going to happen. Yes.
Yeah.
So I actually like sometimes try not to read when I'm busy because I know I will
get
prioritize
stuck into
that.
It.
Yeah. I'm partial to a sports night or two.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
I like going out with my friends. I live in a house of 9 people at the moment for uni. Yeah. So I'm always around people. Yeah. So I'm not just a hermit in my room.
You don't get like too overwhelmed just by yourself. You get to step out and talk and
it's easy to be. Usually I like going to the gym, but honestly at the moment it's not been happening much. Yeah. I'll be honest, it's not been going great.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just nothing really special.
That's fine as long as there are things in place, right?
Yeah. Don't worry.
Yeah. Because I guess it's always important not to be burned out. But would you say you've ever been burned out in this process?
Yes. So, I just had to get it in there, didn't I? But I went to Thailand this summer.
Oh, is it?
And I remember all around. Started off at like Bangkok, went around.
Oh, nice. Okay. That sounds amazing. Yeah.
I recommend Koh Tao to anyone listening.
Oh, okay.
Koh Tao, so good.
Koh Tao?
Yeah.
I've not heard
T-A-O.
T-A-O.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
so good. But then I realised when I was away from it all, because I went for a month, I was like, oh my gosh, I think I was burnt out. And you know when you're just in autopilot for a while, and you only realise when you've stepped away.
Yeah.
So I also think having a break is really important and really good. But a proper break, like not when you're going and checking emails still, replying to messages, have an auto reply, tell people I'm not available.
Yeah.
And that really helps. But I mentioned earlier that I'm very organised. So I've been okay actually. I might regret saying this because I got my dissertation soon.
No, hopefully it goes well. Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's all right.
Yeah. And I guess that was like your proper like time away to really relax away from the, I forgot what it's called, the sewing machine and the Instagram and that kind of stuff. Yeah. To really reset. And I guess like you said, that's where it kind of hits you, how much like work has been getting to you and you get to like fully relax and stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. And going a bit more back to the business itself, have you had any, with a lot of businesses, they kind of evolve over time. Have you found that your business has taken directions you didn't expect, or has things gone roughly how you expected it to?
I think how I expected.
Yeah.
Nothing crazy's happened. Maybe I wish it scaled up a bit faster.
Yeah. Like some things that's like takes time.
Yeah, but at the same time, I don't think I would be ready for that. Yeah. If I was getting, I don't know, like £1 million worth of orders a year.
Yeah.
I don't think I would be able to cope with that. Obviously not making it by myself. Yeah. But cope with being CEO of that on top of my studies, because I definitely want to graduate. I want my degree.
Yeah.
So I think it's almost a blessing in disguise that hasn't gone too fast and overwhelmed me. And I do think sometimes some people are successful too early. And I don't mean this from a place of jealousy.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah.
But when you peak too soon that you're not ready.
Yeah, and you don't have the lessons you learn from the process, and you're not really able, you have that success, but you're not equipped to really utilize it in the best way.
Yeah, exactly. So sometimes when I think, wish I was doing a bit more business, this kind of thing, I remind myself, okay, but are you actually ready for that?
Yeah.
Or do you want to wait a few more months until you've got your, you've graduated?
You've graduated.
Yeah.
You have that base solidified, and then you can start building rather than like rushing into it. No, I know what you mean. Yeah. And I guess the kind of next question moving on from that would be, when is that base going to be ready? What do you have left to kind of figure out? Is it mainly building that team, or?
I think definitely a team is a big part of it. I mentioned how important it is to really find someone. Yeah. That actually aligns with what you're doing and actually cares. They don't just want the money.
It's not just there just do the job, get the money and go, but really actually cares.
Yeah. So that they really do a good job.
Exactly, yeah.
Even though, although I say that, I guess if they did a really good job and they worked just as well.
Yeah. What? But is it sustainable?
This is true. Yeah. No, and I want my interns to eventually have them as employees. Like I want a long term.
Something long term.
Yeah. For the values and like we were talking about.
Yeah.
Wait, sorry, what was the question?
It's just about the base. What does that base look like for you? Yeah. So I guess that team is one aspect of it.
Team is one aspect. I think brand awareness and marketing.
Yeah.
That's probably one of my shortfalls is marketing. I'm not super confident with it.
Yeah.
I'm not great at content creation. And so having help with that, I think, because
really
honestly, all you need is brand awareness and people to know. Yeah. And then you'll always have customers.
Yeah.
As long as I
guess with this kind of business as well, it's a very big hurdle because there's probably, you already know this, but there's so many people out there that would be so interested in this. It's just about reaching them and getting them. Yeah. Which I guess is a very big hurdle to cross. Yeah. And when it comes to your products themselves, are you thinking of sticking just with clothing, or do you think maybe you want to branch out to perhaps jewelry or?
Yeah. I started off doing jewelry.
Was that the okay.
I think it was like alongside sewing. I also would buy secondhand necklaces and stuff from charity shops.
Okay.
And remake them into other stuff. But I was just more passionate about the sewing.
Yeah.
And I think, I don't know, not fully, but I think there are more issues within the fashion industry in terms of ethics and sustainability.
Just
because it's a bigger industry as well.
And it's a bigger issue as well. Yeah.
I mean, obviously there's a lot of issues in the jewelry industry. Of course, mining and ethics and all this kind of thing.
Yeah, the
so I don't want to put that down at all.
Yeah.
But I do want to branch out because at the moment, it's only women's wear and some accessories. So then you've got the question, what about men? Where do they shop?
Exactly.
And, you know, I hear that and I do agree.
I want some stuff as well.
Yeah. You're like my boyfriend. My boyfriend's always saying to me, when are you going to make me something?
Yeah, literally, when are we going to get into the picture?
It's just, I'm obviously not a man.
Yeah,
I don't know the style as much, like styling. Or I made my dad a shirt and it was so difficult. It was just it was so long.
Getting the sizing right.
Yeah, sizing and everything. So I just prefer women's wear because I'm more comfortable with it. It's what I've always done. Yeah. So that's because it's me. So when I have a team, I can branch out. Maybe even then you can children's stuff.
Yeah. And like you said, if it's individuals making it themselves, maybe perhaps could be easier when they start doing it and that kind of stuff. But yeah, again, I do really like this whole idea of it being like not personalized in the sense of every shirt is made by someone and having that little recognition somewhere, like a little signature kind of thing or like a little tag. I think that's really cool. Yeah. But yeah, this whole concept of sustainability is there any ways you want to improve that? So for example, instead of instead of utilizing, was it a back end fabrics? Dead stock, yeah. Instead of utilizing dead stock, perhaps creating your own from like straight from scratch, or what kind of ideas do you have to improve that sustainability further?
So dead stock fabric is amazing, but there's definitely an issue with it in terms of business. Yeah. It's that there's a limited amount. Exactly. You can't reorder it when it runs out.
It's kind of like a bottleneck in it.
And also because we're not a massive company, I can't afford to buy hundreds of meters. Not yet a massive company. Yeah. I can't afford hundreds of meters to ensure the stock remains. So stuff is limited, which I also don't like. Yeah. Like, for example, I had a top go viral on TikTok. People loved it. And now I've run out of the fabric. I can't sell it anymore.
You can't do it anymore, It sucks because the demand is there.
The product isn't. But I've seen really cool fabrics. I've seen like leather made from banana and cactus and this kind of thing. So, because I made a few bags, I'd want to do something aligned with something like that. Yeah,
but instead of like a snake skin or alligator, you have it from like fruit and
it's so cool. That's cool. From wasted fruit. I've also I'm wearing it right now if anyone's watching. This scrunchie is made from bamboo silk. So that's a new fabric I've got. Silk made from bamboo. They've also got them made from like orange peel, banana peel. It's really interesting. That's
the first time hearing about this.
Yeah, so bamboo, obviously it's vegan. Yeah. Silkworms are often boiled alive to make silk, which a lot of people don't know. Silk is really cool. Yeah. Silk is not, you shouldn't really buy that with a clear conscience. It's a bad fabric. So bamboo grows really quickly. Yeah. Doesn't require a lot of space. Very sustainable.
Cheap as well.
Not cheap.
Oh, it's not cheap.
The fabric isn't. I think because it's new.
Yeah. And I guess it's a new process.
Yeah. And I buy it from like an approved, ethically made, like they have
which makes it a bit more pricey because of the whole process.
But I'm happy to pay, and I'm sure my customers would be. Yeah, of course. But there's lots of fabrics I want to play around with. Yeah, there's lots of amazing ones out there. Yeah.
Oh no, I guess the space for growth and the where you can like what's the word I'm looking for? Like the potential is massive. Yes. Which is exciting in a way, I can imagine.
And like every day there's new stuff being made. Every day
which
there's
is crazy.
New designs.
And I've only had like a very brief kind of look at the Instagram and stuff like that. But already from what I've seen, it's very like, it's different, it's unique.
Oh, thank you.
It's not like, it's not like you're like the run of the mill, like, walk into Primark and it's the same shirt, but like in like a slightly different pattern. Yeah. Or the same like cargos, just in different colors. Yeah. So I guess that's one aspect of it I really like. And I guess the origins as well of it being completely sustainable and like from what was the name again? Sorry, the
Dead stock.
Yeah. From that kind of background is that's really interesting as well. And like so you want to stick to fashion at the moment. Do you want to go back into jewelry or is that
potentially? But it's not a plan.
Or is it more of like a down the line kind of thing?
I'll never say never. Yeah. But it's not the plan for the moment. Yeah.
Okay, that's really cool. But that's very interesting that you kind of have like this process already nailed down of it being fully sustainable. And as I mentioned before, do you have any ideas of future plans of perhaps creating your own from scratch, your own cloth and stuff like that?
Oh yeah, sorry. How does that work?
Sorry. How does that kind of work? Because I'm not really. It's not really my kind of industry. I don't really know the logistics of it. Do you need a factory or is it something you can do?
Yeah, for making fabric you would, and you need to do a lot of testing and have a lot of specialized machinery. Gotcha. So that's something. Again, I'll never say never, but I think always will be outsourced. Yeah. Because then I just have a fabric business if I was making it, I guess. But I have ordered before a lycra made from recycled plastic bottles. All of them were post-consumer plastic bottles, which was, and it was still really good quality. Like it felt great and thick and nice. So I'll carry on buying stuff like that. But no, I can't see myself making fabric. I think I'd have to be specialized in materials and that kind of thing.
Gotcha.
I'd rather hire someone who knows what they're talking about.
Yeah, rather than like trying to make your own factory and yeah. Okay, and like you said, there's also different like sources of these fabrics and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think there's any barriers to sustainability at the moment? Like, are you facing any issues with that or?
Yeah. So I mentioned about dead stock. When you run out, you run out.
Exactly.
That's fine sometimes. For example, if I'm just buying red fabric, there will always be more red fabric, dead stock red fabric. So I tried to do that for a while, but then I just thought it's just boring. I love patterns and special stuff.
Something a bit more unique.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I guess price as well. Like I mentioned, the bamboo silk. The bamboo silk's expensive. I think
I can imagine, yeah.
It was like £20 or £30 a meter.
Yeah.
And affordability is important to the brand.
Of course, yeah.
So it's kind of finding that balance where I'm making a profit and not a loss while still buying stuff like bamboo silk.
Exactly, yeah.
And also there's some fabrics, I don't know how to actually pronounce it. I've only seen it written, like Okiotex certified.
I'll be honest, I've never heard of it. But
you might recognize like the logo. It just means basically they're just good for the world.
Okay.
Or like B Corp certified, all this kind of thing.
Yeah.
When they're certified, you know it's
with like good consciousness, it's ethical, it's
and someone's done the testing, like they're not lying.
Yeah.
But that comes with a price.
Exactly, naturally.
So it's a bit of that as well. But having said that, there's also enough affordable, sustainable materials where it's not a massive barrier.
So it's not like no, but I'll be honest, this like silkworm thing is I had no idea. I'm still thinking about it. That's crazy. Yeah. I'm just wondering, are there other like practices similar to that that people don't really know much about or?
Yeah, well, basically anything animal based. So we are 100% vegan, but at the same time, sometimes when I buy dead stock fabric, they don't know the composition and they'll assume it's like 95% cotton, 5% elastane.
But that certainty is not really.
Realistically, it could be 1% wool or something.
Yeah.
And like I have no way of knowing that. So I don't know. That's why I don't actually publicly say it's 100% vegan, just because I can't certify that
with
at the moment.
Certainty, yeah.
But I think it's worth the balance in terms of dead stock.
Yeah,
like it's second. I don't know. I hope people understand listening. Like I hope you understand what I mean because I'd never consciously buy leather or something.
Yeah. You do your best, but
yeah. There's always
maybe
a chance.
there might be 1%, 2% kind of thing. Yeah.
And dead stock you can't find it like certified vegan.
Yeah. And like suppliers that do just vegan dead stock.
Yeah. Which I haven't actually found. That's a good point. I haven't.
Maybe you could be the first.
Yeah. I'll go have a look after this.
Yeah.
But leather, for example, I think everyone assumes is what's the word when it's left over from something? It's not coming to mind.
That's
just basically the remainder from the meat industry. What's left over. But oftentimes it's not.
Yeah.
And also the chemicals involved. Yeah, like leftover from beef. The chemicals involved in making it go from cowskin to leather. Someone has to do that. Someone has to put it on there. Oftentimes, again, they're underpaid. They're exploited. They're abused.
Exploited,
like these chemicals are really dangerous. And to end up with the leather, basically.
Yeah.
So it's stuff like this. Like wool as well is really problematic. You think it's just shaving the sheep, but it's not as simple as that. I don't know. That's the problem. And you see merino wool and you think, oh, like luxury cashmere sounds great, this kind of thing. But when you truly look into it, it's a lot darker than just being a luxury fabric.
Yeah.
So I do recommend that people have a look.
But that's the thing. When you say like have a look, I wouldn't know where to begin.
Okay.
Are there any like sources or like not sources but websites or organizations I could look into? Because this is like an area where I'm very like uneducated in. Like I always hear like there's unethical practices, right?
Yeah.
But I don't really know what those practices are. I think it's important to know them because then it gives me or anyone else more motivation to avoid it. Especially like with the silkworm thing. That's a bit, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, firstly, just Google it.
Yeah,
but
I guess
at the same
that's like
time,
a primary.
make sure stuff is written by like someone real.
Yeah.
Because maybe it's the history student in me coming out, but you don't know who's written this stuff,
like
who's said this stuff.
Yeah.
Obviously, if you're looking at like animal charities, they're going to be biased. But at the same time, I think they're telling the truth. Like I don't think they'd lie.
They probably have some like actual proper sources.
Yeah, like they exist.
It is biased, but there's backed up by real stuff.
Like there's always a bias. Always. No one is completely just flat.
Yeah.
So that's also important to remember. But yeah, definitely just Google it. I think one thing leads to another. It is a bit of a rabbit hole.
I can imagine. Yeah,
it's one of those when you start to see one thing. But yeah, I don't know. Just Google like truth of cashmere, ethical truth of cashmere, something like that. You'll see articles, you'll see pictures.
And then that's how you can, look into and No, I'll definitely have a look at that because again, it's one of those areas that I don't know. I think it's a combination of it's not really accessible. It's not really out there.
It's true,
and I guess people don't really want to think about it. They don't want to go. They see something nice and they just want to buy it. They don't want to think about where it came from. The people involved making it. And I think that's why it's really good with again the personalizing the clothing because again it's reminding people this is made by a human. Do you know what I mean? And it gets people thinking, okay, what about the trousers I'm wearing, the shoes I'm wearing? Is that not also made by a human? But there's no signature with that. And I guess those like cogs turning of thinking more about consuming a bit more ethically, thinking more about where we're getting our stuff from and that kind of stuff. But again, that's like another really like cool aspect of OBE Label. It makes you think. Which I really like.
Thank you. That's actually a good tagline. It makes you think. That's really clever. Yeah.
And maybe have you I don't know, maybe you could think about, or I don't know if you have already, or if you're planning to, but perhaps incorporating education as part of the marketing or that kind of stuff of raising that awareness. Is that something you've thought about with OBE Label?
Yes. So I do have a section on my website talking about sources to go and look at to learn about ethical fashion.
Okay.
Because I read a book. It was by someone, her last name is Castro, called Loved Clothes Last. And I remember reading that and learning so much. And that was a great book from a really good author, even though I can't remember her name. But yeah, I think now that you say that, I should do more because I know that also content that's educational does well, as I'm sure Knowness knows, as I'm sure. But also our incubator manager, Anna. I'm on a business incubator with the university.
The exchange.
The exchange where we are now. Anna's said to me before, because I told her some of this stuff and she said, wow, I never knew. I wish I knew. You need to tell people. So yeah, I definitely think that's something I want to incorporate more. I think also maybe I do shy away from it because I just think if you see silkworms are boiled alive, you just don't want to look at their content again. So it's finding a nice balance.
Because some people, I think when it comes to like that shock factor, right? For some people, it really wakes them up. They think, oh, boiling silkworms, wow, that's opened my eyes. Whereas for others, it's just it doesn't really work. It is the opposite effect.
They just want to swipe away and not think about it.
And it's just, I don't want to think about what
which is understandable, honestly.
It
is understandable.
Because there is a factor that a method that a lot of companies use that are promoting like veganism or vegetarianism, that kind of stuff. And they use those shock images of what animals have to go through to end up on our plate. And it works for some people, but not for everyone. So like you said, it is that getting that balance, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Which is, but definitely I think that education is good because once you understand why it's important, then you have more of an incentive to, you know what I mean?
Then you care and you want to.
Yeah, exactly. Then it's not that, people don't care. It's just people don't realize how important it is.
Yeah.
And they don't have that motivation. Yeah. What's kind of been your experience of that, like raising that awareness? Like, have you found that a lot of people don't really have an idea, or what's that been like? What are those conversations kind of like?
I think it's one of those, when you do something yourself and you assume everyone else knows. Exactly. Kind of like dead stock fabric. For me, I'll just say to people, oh, dead stock. And they're like, what is that?
Yeah, like me, I'm like, dead stock, what's that?
And I don't even realize it's something I have to explain. That sounds so patronizing, but I just
I get what you're saying.
You're so used to it that you don't even consider other people wouldn't.
Exactly, yeah.
But like leather, people don't think anything of it.
Yeah, it's just leather.
Yeah, exactly.
Comes from a cow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how, but I just know that goes to that,
So yeah, I think I do need to do a better job of raising more awareness educationally as well. But yeah.
I'm
going to start doing more. Keep an eye on my socials, guys, to learn more.
We will.
But don't worry, I won't be too morbid.
Of course. Yeah. Okay, that's perfect. And just to kind of close off, I want to ask you a really important question, and that's with all of these things, with this sustainability process, with this business, what do you think is the most important lesson you've took from this? So what's something that you're very, something you resonate with very deeply? What would that be?
In terms of life or business?
It could be anything. It could be life. It could be the business itself. All
right, I'm gonna do two because I'm
okay. Go for it.
All right, for the business one, do a business because it's something you care about and you're passionate about. I'm sure you've heard this before, but don't do it because you want to own a business and you think it's an easy way to make money. Yeah, and it comes with all the glory and you'll be a CEO. Do it because you care.
Yeah.
and have like a business idea before you think I want a business. Obviously, it won't always go like that.
Yeah.
But if I wasn't passionate about this, I would have thrown in the towel a while ago.
A very early stage. Yeah.
And then in terms of just life, I mentioned it earlier, but just remember, as an individual, you matter. You make a difference.
Yeah, that's a very big lesson.
It was, someone said it, I can't remember who. Someone said this quote, but they said, every time you spend money, you are creating the kind of world that it will be. She said it nicer than that.
Yeah.
But,
But along those,
Yeah, so as a consumer, you have so much power, and that's important to remember.
Those are two very, very big lessons. Yeah.
Thank you.
No, but it's been amazing talking to you. I've learned a lot. Hope the audience has as well.
Thank you, Nassim.
Yeah. No worries. So that wraps up our episode today. Again, big shout out to the OBE Elevate Exchange program. And yeah, thanks for watching.
Thank you.